Stuff like this too, like the one that I really like, they go no more than 26, 27 minutes total, but that's like 5 people.
Yeah, and that's a lot. I'd like to welcome you all to the first ever episode of the Crosstalk series. My name is Tim. This is my good friend Chris. He'll be co-hosting the show with me, and we're going to be talking about all sorts of things. Mostly, I think, film, because we're both pretty passionate about that. And we'll see where it goes, but this is our first episode. So our theme today is movie reviews and popular opinion and how it affects you personally when you're making decisions about what to watch. So I think we'll start off with something pretty straightforward, which is when you go see a film, Chris, what do you typically use as your reference point?
Well, any number of things. I mean, trailers are sometimes a good indication, not always, but they can maybe possibly give you a few hints as to what the movie might be about. I mostly use online tools. Rotten Tomatoes is an excellent resource. Not only do you get critic reviews, but you also get regular people, basically. I really like a website called CinemaBlend. They have some excellent reviewers on that site.
Yeah. And what's interesting about mentioning Rotten Tomatoes is, like you said, you're getting a wide breadth of reviewers. So you'll probably find over time, at least in my experience, I don't know if that's true for you, but
absolutely,
that people will probably line up better with your opinions, and then you can go but you can see what they have to say about the review, and maybe they'll agree with you most of the time, but at least it's a jumping off point.
The scores that they put up there, the fresh or rotten scores that they put up on the site, typically they're in line with my tastes. Not always. There's a few films. I mean, Star Trek Into Darkness is one that I always bring up. I think it's like about 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not sure how the heck it's 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. That thing is full of plot holes. It's another conversation for another day, but it's one of those films that I don't understand the score. And another one is one of your favorite movies, the Fast and the Furious franchise. The latest one I think was trending at 80% last time I saw it, and again, it's not for me. I get that I'm not that movie's target audience.
I think I do a similar thing. I'll go to certain websites that I enjoy, or I'll listen to podcasts, or I'll watch YouTube videos of certain reviewers, and I've got a handful of people that I come back to. I mean, recently I really got into watching this video series by a lady who calls herself Comic Book Girl 19, and she's mostly into sci-fi and like B-movie horror and stuff like that. So it's kind of that kitschy kind of stuff that I like. So, but Rotten Tomatoes is a good one. I think IMDb has a really good platform for like review.
It can be. So you'll get a lot of people who will review movies, and the thing about IMDb is you'll get some weird complaints about movies, like like what was that character thinking, or you'll get things like, I mean, I guess you can get this on anything that has comments section, but you could get like a far right wing Republican that'll be like, oh, like the liberals trying to tell us to recycle or something like that, right? And I mean, I find IMDb can be more, they have a lot more of that on their site.
Yeah, it's a little bit more fed by their users and less so by the reviews.
That's why Rotten Tomatoes, I think, is a better mix, because you have critics and the masses, the regular people.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I find that people who go and leave comments on that site as a person, they're usually into movies. Like most people, a lot of my family, a lot of my friends, if they go, they're very traditional about how they decide what they're going to see. They look at the trailer, oh, that looks interesting, I'll go and see it.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that point is when you say, you're looking for people who are passionate about it and have an interest in it, I often think of Siskel and Ebert is a really good mainstay. And I know obviously those guys aren't with us anymore, but
I feel like Siskel and Ebert, they were like, it was brilliant in its simplicity, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down, right? It's very so simple, like it appealed to such a wide audience, but if you've ever like read anything about them, they would go in and review a movie. They wouldn't just do, is this popular? Like, does it speak? They would review like, what's the cinematography like? How's the lighting? Like, what are the scenes like?
Yeah.
Does do gaps in logic take me out of it?
Yeah.
So I mean, but they like very much simplified it. And
But
that's
their
why,
thing was this thumbs up.
yeah, it was thumbs up, thumbs down, and it was
Yeah.
it was a brilliant way to get it out to the masses, right?
I think another one that's really good. That's, I mean, I don't know how many people are aware of it in the general public, but I think people who like film know what it is. The Guardian.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a really good source, and I actually have been reviewing my own movies that I watch, and I've been using The Guardian as one of my jumping off points when I review, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, absolutely.
So that's I think that's another really good example of a sort of a mainstay in culture that can and does add to the conversation.
And my only thing about some of those sites is when you start getting into numerical based ratings, like percentage is one thing on Rotten Tomatoes, because 80%, 87%, usually that's percentage of people who found it
Statistically.
So, yeah, statistically, so you can back it up. But when you're talking about something subjective like a numerical rating, between 1 and 10, okay, like what's a 7?
Yeah.
And I watched one of the movie roundtables that I watch sometimes called Cinefix Roundtable, and they were talking about that rating scale. Oh yeah, that movie's a solid 6, and you're like, well, what's a 6?
But what composes the 6?
What makes the 6? Like, is it? Well, Jurassic World's like a 6, and they're like, whoa.
But
I think it was a 7.
Yeah, because you're basing it on several factors, and it could be the cinematography, it could be the target audience, whether it's meeting the needs of the target audience.
Yeah.
It could also be just general box office revenue. It could be, does it look good?
Yeah.
Does the plot work? Like, there's lots of little factors, but we don't know what those factors are.
Exactly. Or is it fun? Did you have a good time? Could you overlook the logic gaps? Like Jurassic World's riddled with them, but damn if it ain't fun, right?
You can enjoy the movie
Yeah,
experience.
like especially, I'm not gonna spoil the end, but the end is very like it's what you want. It's a big fight, and that's what you want to see, right? Yeah. That's like I want to see dinosaurs, and I want to see like
you want to see the dinosaurs fight each other.
Exactly, and it's just really interesting. You do very fun, and it makes no sense if you stop to think about it at all. You'll lose what makes it fun, and entertaining, but it's one of those you can get past that logic gap. So it's like it's one of those things like between on a scale of 1 to 10, you can't
say what makes it 10. Unless you're saying this is the criteria that goes into the decision making process.
Yeah, exactly.
And who wants to sit through that?
It's basically electronic word of mouth now.
Yeah.
There are last few years, the history's littered with films who they'll do a $100 million opening weekend and then they'll fall off 65 to 70%, and it's not so much the critical reviews as it is people taking to Twitter. This movie is like, don't waste your money. Go see something else comparable instead. There's several tent poles opening, especially if it's a summer movie where there's several big movies opening at the same time. If you have something like it looks sort of interesting, they didn't let critics review it, which is sometimes a red flag. Or if it's like, say, Star Wars, like, who cares? Like,
everyone's going to review it.
Yeah, nobody's going to... They're not going to open it up pre-release to critics because it's going to make like $1 billion. Nobody's going to...
It's like the
They don't
Hortons.
need to.
It's the Tim Hortons of coupon cutting.
Exactly. But if you say, if they don't open it for review and you don't get advance reviews, but then everybody goes into it fresh, opening weekend, people will instantly take to Twitter. So if you follow the right people, you even your friends, somebody of your friends, and then it just spreads like wildfire through social media, and before you know it, you have a gigantic drop off.
Good example, the movie, the remake movie Dread.
Yeah,
I haven't personally seen it, but I wanted to
see it. You should see it.
Sure, and I agree with that. I agree with that statement. I wanted to see it,
very good.
And then I didn't get around to it. But the whole purpose of this conversation is talking about what influences us and why it does that,
absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So, public opinion, and I've read about this quite a bit on film reviews and on other channels, is the reason why that movie did poorly is because everyone misunderstood what the movie was about and who was in it, right? There's a lot of associations with Sylvester Stallone, which it has nothing to do with him.
No.
It's not a Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yeah, people confused it with Judge Dredd from 1995,
Right.
which I've also seen, which is pretty much terrible. You can also have the opposite effect too. If you have an art film, or if you have maybe not a huge budget, it's maybe a sci-fi, but maybe, let's say, instead of like the Avengers where it has a $180 or $200 million budget, it has like a 50 or 60 million, which, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but it's nowhere near, comparatively, it's nowhere near some of the major blockbusters. Something that maybe it's a labor of love, or it's something that the director really has wanted to make for a long time.
Yeah.
How that works in Hollywood basically is, you make, the studio said, I want you to make this one, okay, but then I get to make, if that one does well, then I get to make what I actually want to make.
Right.
So let's say that's exactly what it is. It's got really good acting, it's a great story, it's something that audiences connect with opening night, and then again it spreads like wildfire over Twitter, social media, and you'll see it start out modestly but then steadily climb and hold through the week, so it ends up becoming a really profitable movie in the end.
Right.
And then does well on streaming media, or if you still purchase DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever, it ends up with a following. Oftentimes that's how sequels to movies get made, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to use Fast and Furious as an example of that. Because that movie was not intended to be a franchise.
Vin Diesel drives fast cars, right?
Yeah, it was like it was supposed to be a one-off, which, and I know this is probably a little unrelated, but it's basically like a rip-off of Point Break, right? So, like...
Yeah, well, there's the skydiving and awesome Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves like shooting his gun. No.
Yeah, so the only reason I bring that up is because like Point Break is being remade this year.
Yeah, no, I know. Did it already come out? Anyway.
So, like, things like that do happen, right? You'll see a movie being made, and then all of a sudden it like gets success, and it's not necessarily because the movie was good or bad. It could be based on influence. So that's where I was going to go with the next. Is like word of mouth. So I have lots of experiences with people who have influenced me to watch films, and oftentimes I find that if the person understands my tastes, then it'll give me a good recommendation. But the problem is that if they don't have the same taste as me, or they don't watch film for the same reasons that I do, then I'm going to end up watching something and wondering why I sat through 2 hours, right? The thing is that I think there is value in having people give critical analysis.
Absolutely.
And I think that there's definitely a reason why we have all these different types of sites that exist out there.
Yeah.
And it's just a question of what happens when you subject yourself to those types of things. Are you, and this is like kind of a niche thought, but are you getting yourself into a position where you're actually being like self-curated or curated by someone else, right? Because we have all these services that exist, and they allow us to absorb movies and television really quickly.
Right.
But as a consequence, with the digital age and us relying so much more on and it's a good thing in a lot of ways, I think, the capacity of technology to tell us like what people are clicking on, when people are pausing the film, when people are stopping the film, all those types of things, right? And I think it's going to put us in a position where hopefully, and this like goes back to like Google AdSense and all that kind of jazz, where people like get stuff that they already like and they get more and more of it. It can be really good and it can be really bad, and I'm kind of divided on.
And I think that the same thing that applies to cinema can apply to those apps. If you have if you have a film geek or somebody who's passionate about it in your group too, that can really affect somebody like me, you or I, or people that I've met too in passing. If they love something and they'll champion it, they'll go take the time, they'll go see it, or they'll go read a lot of things about, wow, this sounds really interesting.
And convince people.
Yeah, or this director has something interesting to say about life or a character's journey or something like that.
Yeah.
I've definitely championed films to people they didn't even know existed, and they're like, wow, like I really enjoyed that. Thanks for the recommendation. Or you look at something like Shaun of the Dead, and then eventually into Hot Fuzz and World's End. Mm-hmm. Like his show Spaced is amazing, but a lot of people don't even know that exists. somebody champions wow, this is really funny, maybe I'll check out some of the other things, or they started small with Shaun of the Dead, and then everybody was on board for Hot Fuzz, and then by the time they got the Worlds, like, it's that build up, you have that cult build up, and if you have enough people championing something,
then you're going to get the people to come see the film.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And it's, and I think the same thing can apply to those streaming technologies too.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of have, sometimes you kind of have to prepare somebody for a movie like Requiem for a Dream is an amazing film.
So weird.
It is. So you have to, if you can champion that movie as much as you want, but you can't tell somebody to go into it lightly.
And you also can't ruin it for them, because then they don't get what the film intended to do, which is shock them with the content.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, I love Aronofsky's work. He's my favorite director. I love everything he's... Well, I haven't seen Noah, so I can't comment on that, but everything he's... Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've seen up to that point, though, The Wrestler or Requiem for a Dream. Love Black Swan.
Black Swan's a great movie.
It's I should have won an Oscar that year, but even some of his less more divided things, like I love The Fountain. Oh, The Fountain is almost 50-50. People like it or they really don't.
Right.
And it's a heavy film. Like, you can't just sit down and say, well, I want something to watch while I'm vacuuming the living room. Like, you have to sit down and
otherwise you're wasting your time.
Yeah, you have to get invested. So if you prepare somebody properly for something like that too, as you're championing it, I think you'll get more of a positive reaction out of it too. And then if you can sort of bring them over to your side about movies like that, they'll be more open to other things that maybe is like not mainstream.
Yeah.
They'll check out other theaters like The Princess of the Garneau. They bring in a lot of those smaller films that are critically acclaimed through Sundance or Cannes or whatever.
Yeah.
You can almost convert something like that, and then it's almost like you're spreading a virus. I mean, maybe not the best,
but it's a useful
analogy,
right?
Yeah.
By doing that, I think you actually stave off the infection of things like Transformers 5 or Grown Ups 3. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, more different conversation, right?
Because that's the reality, is that whether or not public influence is like good or bad, I think it's a mixed bag. Really, that's what I'm saying. But
absolutely.
But you get people who are experts, and you get people who are hobbyists, and you get people who are what do you want to call it? Like, they just occasionally dip their toes in the water.
Yeah.
But the experts are the ones who are saying, like, no, there's value in this. This is art. This is something useful. This is something that we can actually we should hold on to, right?
You really need to see this film. Like, I mean, maybe don't use words like blow your mind, but you really need to see this film that has really interesting to say about blank.
Like, there's films that come to mind for me specifically that aren't necessarily the most profound films ever, but maybe there's a one-note film, but the one note that they hit isn't something that you'd always see. It's like almost never see, right? Like, an example I think of like immediately is the movie Defendor, and the reason why I say that movie is because you get films like Kick-Ass, and Kick-Ass is great, but Defender...
But it's a certain type of movie. It's a do-it-yourself hero, but it's very much a studio film. Like, it didn't market itself that way, and it certainly wasn't film produced that way, but it comes across that way.
Yeah.
Whereas Defendor, and I have seen it too, it's an indie film. Like, there are no preconceptions as you're going through that film.
That's like a Woody Harrelson like art film, right? That's the one that he picks to, like, this is the movie I want to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't end up with the same kinds of films because we don't have one kind of person going to see film.
You don't want to end up with all indie art films either. Like, I mean, there's still a place for bombastic explosions everywhere.
Right. Which is why it confuses people when I say, like, I love the Fast and Furious. Because, like, it's not the world's best example of a narrative-driven story. Although I would disagree with that pretty strongly. But in general, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. But it's even you look at some of the acting in it, it's maybe not the best, but that's why it scores. That's the thing. That's kind of why it scores well on Rotten Tomatoes, because the critics who review it, they go into it with a certain level of expectation. I want to be entertained.
Right.
I want some really funny one-liners. I want some things that blow up. I want some cars that go fast. And they deliver. Like, in their credit, they deliver. It's not for me. I'm not the target audience, but there's totally a place for that.
Yeah, but then you get, like, your Judd Apatow movies, right? And then those are comedies, but they're a little bit more dramatic, and they're dealing with content that is, you know, typical life stuff.
Yeah.
But in a funny, dark way, right?
It's been my opinion that the best comedy is comedy that has something to say.
Yeah.
Overall. Like, it can be funny, like, and the jokes can be crass or they can be sophisticated, but ultimately, you should have something to say with it. I think, actually, most film can be like that, but again, the blockbusters don't really. They can, but they also can't. So, it's one of the things, everybody's got a different level of taste, and they've got a different level of tolerance for the strange, the weird, the out there, the artistic, the avant-garde. I know my mom's never gonna go see. She's never gonna go see some of the films I've mentioned previously. She's never gonna see. It's just not. She's never gonna sit down and watch Primer. It's just never gonna happen.
Right.
But that's not for her. But something comes out that speaks to her. Like, it's a romantic film, and she's like very much a romantic. So that movie speaks to her, and it's something that entertains her.
This is maybe a little off topic, but the example I think of like that is because I just watched Spectre, right?
Yeah.
Actually, we
saw it together. Yeah.
Right, but we watched Spectre, and after I watched the movie, I told a story about the movie without telling them what the movie was about to my parents and my brothers and my sister.
Yeah.
I'm saying, go watch this movie. I don't care who your favorite James Bond is, because whether or not Daniel Craig is your favorite, I think you're going to have something to say about the movie.
Yeah, and it's a different. And his Bond's like a different kind of Bond too than a lot of his predecessors.
Yeah.
They sort of tried to do it with Dalton, and it wasn't the right audience at the time, like the mid to late '80s and the Cold War and all that, all those things. But I think people can be pleasantly surprised. Like, I know a lot of people just hate him because he's blonde. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Which is like more accurate.
Yeah.
For the
from the character from the novel.
Yeah.
Yes, you haven't read any of the novels, but I've seen a ton of Bond flicks.
Yeah.
And to me, like, for my money, he's one of the better ones. And some of that those source material too, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you can, at the end of the day, you can champion some of this stuff to some people, but sometimes they'll just look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. But then also recognize that what you like isn't definitively what
should be made.
Yeah.
I would also add to that, talk about film with people. Like, I can't, as somebody who loves film, I often don't have an outlet for it the way that I like to talk about it, but it's always great when you can get into even if you don't like the same things, just getting into discussion about it.
Absolutely.
What you look for in things that what you look for in movies, what you look for in film, what appeals to you. You can have some interesting conversations, and you can get points of view that maybe you never thought of before. You can get you can get movies recommended to you that maybe you don't think you like, but you end up loving. I saw the live-action Cinderella. Musicals I didn't maybe think were my thing, but it's a great adaptation. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, Lily James is amazing.
Right.
Cousin Rose and Downton Abbey.
Okay. And
love that show. It's great.
An example that comes to mind for me, which is very recent, and again, incidentally, I did a review on it, was the movie The Gift, which is a psychological thriller.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of really good things about it.
Okay, so interesting thing about that movie is I went, I think I've already wrote about this, but I went with the intention of picking up a movie to review, and I saw the certified fresh sticker on that.
Right.
Which
Isn't it amazing, by the way, in the last couple of years, they're starting to stick Rotten Tomato stickers on releases?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like, this wasn't a thing 3 years ago, maybe, right?
Yeah.
I just feel like it's an internet site.
It's interesting,
right? Yeah.
So I looked at it and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to read a quick summary of the plot just to see, is it something I want to watch? Because I don't want to watch films that I want to watch all the time. I want to watch films that I don't watch too, because when I do that, like you said, I might be exposing myself to something that I love,
And
Yeah.
in this case, that was the case.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And that film it does something very, very cool with a psychological thriller that I don't think you've ever seen before.
No.
And
I've heard that actually, and I don't want to spoil the ending. I don't want to have the ending spoiled for me
I won't
because I
want
heard.
to
Yeah. I've heard really great things about it. It's definitely on my list of things.
And it's from a first-time director, right? Joel Edgerton, who's mostly an actor.
Yeah, he is. He's done some excellent films.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but that's the other thing, right? Like, don't be dictated by what people say to the extent that you never
Move outside your comfort zone.
or only listen to what other people say.
And I mean, I don't. That's why I don't specifically rely on one resource.
Yeah.
I'll talk to people, sort of get their ideas on things that maybe they're passionate about. I'll visit Rotten Tomatoes. I'll go to Cinema Blend.
Yeah.
I'll go to YouTube and
Yeah.
look at a movie roundtable. Like, there's several things that I take into account when I'm looking at things.
So what do you think? Do you think we covered it?
I think we got. I think we covered
Okay.
some really good ground.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's good for first ever
Yeah.
First ever video.
So yeah, thanks for sitting through this, and hopefully you got some value out of it. And I also hope that you come back, because we'll be talking about a lot of other interesting things.
We got a lot of great topics coming up in the months ahead, hopefully. And,
And we're not going to just talk about film. I think we're going to try and branch out to other things as well. But we're going to start, and I think that'll sort of be our bread and butter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks for coming to Crosstalk. I'm Tim.
I'm Chris.
And we'll catch you next time. Cool.
Yeah.